Whoa. What's up, everybody? What's happening? Welcome to NightCap. Man, it is going to be amazing and incredible. And we are excited about tonight's conversation. So we want you to invite others to join us now and to share this time with us. This is a different kind of nightcap. You know, typically nightcap involves young adults and sometimes older adults and that kind of thing. And but tonight we wanted to create a conversation with young adults, but a different age of young adults. We wanted to talk about what's been going on in 2020 and its impact on our teens and our college students. 2020 was a year that I think most of us can say, all of us can say, we will never, ever, ever forget. It was a year that really challenged us. It was a year that really frustrated us. It was a year that really put a lot of us in some very difficult and different places. And so tonight we want to kind of jump in, have some real critical conversation about it, really have the courage to just kind of talk it through. And so I'm inviting people because I don't want anybody to say that they didn't know about tonight. So young ladies, can you guys introduce yourselves tonight? Yes, who are you? All right.
Okay,
if somebody can turn down their device, we're getting background noise.
Is that us? It might be us.
I'm not sure.
Okay. We can't hear nothing or hear any noise. Okay. Well, hello everyone. My name is Deja Guns. I am a junior at the Savannah State University. Business management major. Quick bio. That's me.
Hi, I'm Taylor Guns. I am a sophomore. I go to Orange Park High School, but this year I've been doing virtual. And yeah, that's.
Hi, I'm Will Pryor at Douglas Anderson School of the Arts, and I'm a computer major.
Awesome. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm James Terrell. I am the minister of the Fire Student Ministry at St. Paul. Also, I am the minister of the Fire Youth Ministry at the St. Paul Church. And also, I am a corrections officer with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Awesome. We'll start with Deja tonight. You were home during the first semester. Yeah. Tell us honestly how that felt. Tell us honestly what your emotions were, and tell us how 2020 kind of fit into all of that.
Okay, well, fall semester, I did plan on returning back to campus, but due to the uncertainty of COVID-19, emotions were everywhere. You didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah, so I ended up doing all online classes and staying in Jacksonville fall semester, which was my first semester of junior year. So I was pretty excited. It was in the beginning very devastating to be home, but it wasn't like a bad, in the beginning it was like, why am I not going back to campus? Because campus was everything. And then our spring semester of 2020 got cut short due to the beginning of the pandemic and everyone had to stay home. So that sophomore year, second semester of sophomore year got cut short, and then I couldn't return back my first semester of junior year. It was just a lot of emotions. So I was definitely devastated in the beginning, but I quickly adjusted to it. And now looking back, I definitely think it was God's plan because I grew a lot being home and not being in the commotion and the distraction of on campus living. So I definitely do think that it all worked out for the better. But again, it was a rough time just because I didn't know why. I couldn't understand. All my friends were going back. All of my friends, like I have friends that live here in Jacksonville as well, and we all go to Savannah State together. They were all going back. All of my friends from Atlanta and all the different places, they were all returning back to school, and it was just me. I'm like, why am I not going back? But of course, it was for the safety of myself, safety of my family. So once I just kind of settled into that, I was just like, okay, I just have to make it work. I had already launched my business. So I was like, let me take this time to think of some things to make my business better. Let me really get down and make sure my grades are good. I'm doing all online. So let me just really stay in my room and focus. Let me build a better relationship with God, with my family. So it definitely turned out better because 2020 was a year for us all. So it definitely did turn out better, and I am kind of grateful I'm gonna say I'm definitely grateful for that season of just being home and being sat down. College is something, and college definitely was something before Corona. So it was definitely a good thing that I was kind of sat down, and I actually matured being home. So I went back this semester looking at life different, looking at college different, really getting into the grind of things, really realizing what I have to do. Graduation is coming soon, so now I'm really like, okay, playtime is over. Playtime was maybe freshman and the beginning of sophomore year. Sat down the beginning of my junior year, and it's like, okay, it's grind time. So 2020 was a year, but overall, I think it definitely served its purpose, and it had a positive effect on me, honestly. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Akila, share your thoughts about your 2020 how old are you?
I'm 15.
And you're in what grade?
Ninth.
Ninth grade. Share your thoughts about 2020 as a teenager.
Well, I feel like at first I was I was really upset because, man, my 8th grade year got cut short. I didn't go to 8th grade formal. I didn't get to go to my trip at the end of the year, I was really looking forward to because I've been going to school, doing all this work for 3 years of my life, saying, okay, now I want to do this. So missing all that was kind of hard, and not being able to see my friends for a little while was kind of hard. And then starting off freshman year and starting off high school with the pandemic was also terrible because starting online is not easy. It's really not. And having to learn and do different things that you might not be good at online is not easy at all. And I feel like it was also a learning moment and a teaching. It kind of got us to sit down and to calm down, and because we all have busy schedules, really busy schedules. Before COVID, it was, okay, you got to go to school, go to work, go to church, and go home. Don't have time for anything else. And then and then start over the next day. So it kind of got us to slow down and think and reflect on, okay, let's deepen my relationship with God. Let's deepen my relationship with family. Like Deja said, it kind of gave me a moment to just sit down and breathe and take a breather moment, because even as a teenager, life gets pretty difficult. But I think it was, at first I thought it was really why is this here? Why do we have to stay home? I don't want to wear this mask. It's hot. This is ghetto. But I've learned to live with it. I think it's such a teaching moment.
Taylor, your 2020 was interesting. So kind of tell us about your 2020.
For me, it was towards the beginning, it was kind of stressful. When I was still in school, I've had this arthritis type of scare where my joints were just hurting and I was having inflammation and stuff. And it was hard to like walk around school. I had to wear a knee brace. Like I couldn't like do a lot of stuff. And y'all, most of y'all know dancing is everything for me. So like the fact that I couldn't even dance, yeah, like I could barely like move. Like it was just really like it really took a toll on me. But later in like when like the pandemic started, I was able to like stay home. We had like everyone had to do virtual. Like Akila said, virtual is pretty difficult. It at first it was I was able to really focus on my schoolwork, but like like at home it's kind of hard to really like focus on one thing because I mean you're at home, you're in the comfort of your room, you can just relax, just chill. So I actually had to like sit down and be like, okay, I need to focus. This is school. This is important. I need to really like get to work. And with like the pandemic, like everyone basically had to like not really, well, mostly rely on social media because like, of course, people couldn't really go anywhere. So like they use social media for everything. So especially like for kids my age, since everybody couldn't really do anything but get on social media, it could really affect you mentally and like in a positive and negative way. And I think like most like kids my age, they went through a lot with like stressing over schoolwork and stuff happening on social media, everything that's going on in 2020, because 2020 was a lot. So like everything that's been going on like affected a lot of people and like affected their minds and like how they like really functioned. Like it was just a lot going through, like especially like with school, people are trying to figure out how to do this virtual thing. And like people obviously didn't like, nobody likes getting up early. So it was stressful at first, but we were able to like get used to it and had to like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how to really like do everything and to have control over everything, since this is how we're going to have to do everything we need to do in the world since we're in a pandemic. So it was something that we had to get used to.
Wow. James, you are how old?
I am 23.
Okay. And you work where?
At the jail here in Jacksonville with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office.
Okay. But 23, married?
Yes, sir.
Expecting your first child?
Yes.
JT?
In about 10 more weeks. I can't wait.
Share with us from your perspective as an African-American male, 23, in the pandemic, working in the jail. How was your 2020? How did that look and how did that feel?
For me, 2020 was extremely awkward, and I think a good word to use is tensious, if that's the word, tensious. Yeah. Very much so, because I guess number one, to begin, as I was in 2019, I just expected 2020 to be like my year, right? I was like looking forward to it. I expected it to be my year ministry wise, number one, because I had some great opportunities in 2019 and beginning of 2020 in terms of preaching, some good moments. So looking forward to that. I just expected it to be an amazing year. Work wise, I was kind of getting to my flow, and I just hit my 2-year mark. So I was kind of just looking forward to the year. And the type of person I am, I'm very planned, and I have my plan made, so I knew what my year was going to look like in my mind. And then once March came, everything took a turn, and so that was different because I had to make some adjustments. Life as we knew it had changed, especially working in jail, especially working in law enforcement. COVID turned everything. So with what I was used to and accustomed to, I had to approach work completely different. And the awkward thing about the pandemic is that none of us knew this was coming, nor how to deal with it, because it was so new, something that we never faced in our lifetime. And so it was amazingly awkward and tense, because we're learning how to deal with it. I'm learning personally how to deal with it, how to manage it. Of course, I have to, as the husband and leader of my household, I have to remain in my mind strong and confident so that my wife is not worried, and also remain focused. And also being as a correction officer in the jail, I got to do the same thing at the jail. I got to remain confident so that the inmates doesn't get worried and creates more issues for us. So it was amazing, awkward tension because I had to be confident and act as if everything was under control, even when in my own mind, I wasn't sure how to deal with the situation. Yeah. I wasn't sure how to handle what was going on. I wasn't sure what was coming next. We was hoping that it would end soon. And as the year went on, we kept, it never changed. But for me, through the tension, I learned, as Deja and Taylor and Makila said, I learned how to manage it. I learned how to make the best out of it. It was an amazing year of refocusing, an amazing year of building myself spiritually, career-wise. I was able to learn more about myself and even also learn more about my faith in God through this situation and through this time. So while it was amazingly awkward and tense, it taught me plenty of lessons as a husband, as a father, and as an officer.
Got it. So what was probably the most difficult and intense moment you witnessed in 2020, and why? What was the one moment in 2020? It can be personal, it can be national, it can be whatever. What was that moment that for you was very, very difficult, almost traumatic, and then having to kind of try to walk through it as a young adult, as a teenager? What was that moment for you?
I'll say for me, it was the whole racial tension that we saw this year. Extremely awkward, number one, because I am first a Black male, but number two, I'm also a Black male in law enforcement. So I think that's where the greatest tension came in, because I'm trying to manage being Black, but also manage being a law enforcement officer. And though those two are not separate, the greatest tension we saw this year was between the African-American community and law enforcement. And so I'm like on both sides. And so I'm learning, like literally learning in this awkward space of like, man, I'm hating what I'm seeing. This is tough to see, tough to witness. And, people associating me probably with what the negativity they're seeing, especially in the jail. And you hear all kinds of stuff, things from the inmates, and it was had some awkward days, right? Because I'm trying to, I know how it feels. It's tough to see these videos that we're seeing of Black men being killed. And then you see certain videos, and in the videos, I'm watching it from the training perspective I got with JSO, and I'm like, man, so it was this awkward tension because I'm watching it from a trained perspective of how law enforcement is supposed to deal with certain situations. And also I'm watching it as a Black man, like, I'm tired of seeing this. So that was the greatest tension for me.
Makila?
I feel like the racial inequality thing, as James said, but also having a leader that didn't care. Because, at a young age, you're not supposed to be worried about that stuff. But I am very passionate about it, and political things is my thing. So having a leader that's like, oh, I don't care, we're gonna just let all these COVID rates happen, and we're just gonna let all these Black men and women get killed because of their skin color, really hurt me, because we're supposed to look up to the president and look up to the people that are in office and say, man, I can get there one day. And man, that is amazing. This is something that I look up to. And we don't. Yes, we've had this person for 4 years, but it got worse as soon as 2020 hit. Because when 2020 hit, it was just raw. There was no film. There was no sugarcoating of any of it. It was just raw. And watching that happen as a 14-year-old at the time was really hard for me to deal with. And I would always like see stuff on TV, and I'll go to my mom and I'll be like, why are they doing this? Da, 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 da. And she had to tell me, calm down. You can't stress yourself out about this. Because I used to like stress on 1,000. And I'm still coming to terms with the fact that I can't solve everything because it's not my battle to fight. But that's one thing I really had to cope with during 2020. And I feel like as a 15-year-old, I shouldn't have to cope with at this time.
So for me, it wasn't really a specific event. I think overall, just the change that took place with living, period. Beginning with having to come home early from school. I don't think I really understood how serious this was at the time. Because even then I was just like, oh, child, we'll be back. We'll go back to school, whatever. And then once I realized how different life was, and being a 20-year-old, it's like I'm now in my 20s. I'm ready to go for it, reach my goals, which is all still very possible, but now it's different. You're living completely different. We have to wear masks. We can't build relationships like we used to. Relationship is very important, especially being a business major. I have to build relationships. That's my major. That's what I do. And especially running a business, I have to know how to properly talk to people and relate to people. And that's a little bit harder now because we can't really be in the same space. We have to keep masks on. We can't, read facial expressions. You have to read body language. It's just, everything is just different. People lost their jobs. Everything was just like, oh my gosh. And it happened so fast. It happened within 2 months, maybe 3. And everything was like, okay, pick it up, move it, can't do this anymore, change everything. So I really think that 2020 overall was just really difficult adapting to the change, just trying to figure out, what do we do now? How do we, because health was really everyone's concern. I want to stay healthy, but I also want to live. I don't want to be locked in the house, but at the same time, I don't want to go out because I'm scared. I don't want to contract anything. Yeah. So everybody was on their toes. Everyone was on edge. Everyone was locked in their houses with the same people, getting tired of, I'm tired of you, get out my face. It was just a lot of emotions and a lot of change. So for me, I really think just the drastic change to living was what really affected me the most throughout the whole 2020 year.
Wow. Okay. Taylor.
I think both, the whole pandemic situation and the racial injustice that took place this year. It's been happening for forever, but in 2020, it really people have had enough. And that's when everything, especially and the fact that we were still in a pandemic, everyone was out there protesting and fighting for their rights. It was still scary because it was just so many people. And with a pandemic, it's scary. The COVID-19 is serious. Many people have died because of it, and there's still people out there that feels oh, it's not as bad as people say it is, or it's not that serious, or it's not even real. And it's kind of it confuses a lot of people because people get nervous on whether or not to really believe in it and really feel because it's people that haven't even been affected by it at all, them or their families, so they still don't really know whether it's as bad as people say it is. And with the protesting and everything that took place, it was because so many people were angry. And they just had enough. It's 2020. Why is this still happening? Why are people still being judged by something that they can't control, or something that they definitely can't change? And it was just a lot for people to take in, especially taking in the pandemic as well. So with everybody fighting and protesting and being angry and being stressed, it was just a lot. it was a lot for everybody to take in, especially people that are at like a young age.
I wanna just kind of pick up on that. Um, um, Aubrey, Breonna, George Floyd, all of these persons. And then there were other shootings. The young man in Atlanta. I remember that night, and of course, because of Deja's deep Savannah State roots, some of her classmates were actually a part of the protests, right? The rioting, some of them. The images of Black people being murdered by police, but also by others, particularly, particularly police, but more importantly, the brother Aubrey was murdered while running in Savannah. You guys kind of leaned on it. Now I want you to kind of drive it home, and even you, James, as someone who is, as you said, kind of living with the contradiction. And I'll start with Akilah, and then we'll just kind of go around. Those images said what to you about America? What did those images say, Akilah? And then we'll go to Taylor and Deja, and then finally to James. What did those images say to you as a teenager about America?
Honestly, it said nobody's safe. No matter age, no matter woman or man. If you're Black and you're in America, you're not safe at this point. You can't even, no matter what you're doing, you asleep in your apartment, exercising, it doesn't matter. And I've lost all respect, all honestly, for government officials, our government, like our national government, because they haven't said or done anything to change it. What people fail to realize is this stuff has been happening for years. It's just been recorded now. That's the only difference. We have phones and we can post it to social media. And we have this generation, I feel like, what I've seen like on TikTok and Instagram, we like to bring light to things that are racist. Like, it's cool for white kids to say the N-word now. Like, that's a trend. And that's not okay because that's offensive. And they see their government officials doing it and they're like, oh, well, it's fine because this person is doing it. No. I don't feel safe growing up in a world as a teenager if I had to worry about my little brother or my older brother walking down the street and might getting shot because he had a hood on. I don't understand how that's fair for me to live in a world like that and how no one gets consequences.
Wow. That's big. Tell them.
Yeah, like Akilah said, it's really unfair. And I know like it's a saying that life isn't fair, but it's like to the point where it's just crazy. Like back to like social media, like it's like you would be surprised how many people are uncomfortably like verbal about how racist they really feel. And it's crazy because it's like they say it like it's a joke, or they just say like it's nothing. And it's kind of like, because when people try to say how we as African Americans feel about their actions, it's just like people just look at it as like, oh, they're just mad, like they're just upset, it's nothing. But it's really like it's deeper than that. And they don't really take how we feel seriously. And back with the whole like police brutality thing, I feel like no matter what we say, they're not gonna understand how we feel. And like no matter how many of us are angry, how many of us are just sick of it, they're just gonna continue feeling the way they feel about us, no matter how wrong it is. Like they're gonna think like they're just gonna continue having opinions about us without even knowing us on how we act. They're gonna continue listening to the stereotypes and all of these things, and then they're just gonna continue hating us for no real reason, and it's just unfair.
I definitely think 2020 kind of brought out a new breed of racism, to say the least. Being that everyone kind of had to be alone and be home, social media, like Taylor and Akila said, social media became the outlet for that. Because even though all of this was happening during a pandemic, it was still those people who were still afraid to go out and protest, you know, things of that nature. So that started the social media riots. You know, there were riots happening outside, but there were also riots happening on social media. So the way I felt about everything, I didn't even know how to react, how to respond, how to feel. Of course, I was angry that this is still going on because actually right now I'm taking one of my classes, Intro to African American Experience. And it's just basically just about the African American experience during slavery time. So being that although we're free, it's like we're not, you know, it's like we're free to a certain extent. And that angers me. You know, we're in 2021 and things are still happening. You know, people are still throwing racial slurs our way. And we're just living, you know, we are living just like everyone else. So it's very, very tiring. It's very overwhelming. And it's like last year I definitely got to the point where I just prayed, like, God, what can we do? What do we need to do? What can we do? How can we be safe? I shouldn't feel like I'm on edge and scared. Brianna was asleep. She was sleeping. Like, what can we do now, God? Like, help us, please. That was literally my cry out to God, help us, because at this point I didn't know what else to do. I still don't know what else to do, but just pray, because it's just really crazy and it's getting scarier and scarier. But it's like I refuse to live in fear, you know, just knowing who my God is. But I know everything works together. God makes no mistakes, but it's still just like, I feel like it's just too much. Like, it was just a lot going on 2020. It was just too much between COVID and then all of this, with us as Black people feeling unsafe and feeling like we have to riot and prove a point and fight, still fighting. So yeah, that's just how I feel about all of that together. You're still muted, Bishop.
Sorry, guys. I would like for everybody to invite at least 5 people right now. This is probably one of the most powerful and important conversations we've had in NightCap. The seriousness of it, the importance of it, the fact that it speaks so profoundly to the issues facing us, especially our young people who are not just the next generation, but you can tell by their conversation, they are the now generation. And so I want to encourage everybody right now to kind of stop, begin inviting people for this last 25 minutes, because I think we're tapping into some things that are extremely, extremely important. James, 2020 for you, of the images, and yet also living in the world of law enforcement. Explain to me, from your unique perspective, how you personally manage the tension of being law enforcement while seeing law enforcement as a part of what so many people saw as the problem and not the solution.
I think, as Deja said, it's something I'm even still working through and learning, because it was awkward First, because growing up in elementary school, middle school, high school, we were taught, right, that racism was history, that it was a part of history. This was the past. And we saw over the last few years, but in particularly in the new light, in a whole new way, racism being exposed in 2020. So I think that was the first thing, and also just trying to manage it for me. Some days were really tough to manage it, mentally exhausting, because outside of me being law enforcement, I'm a Black man, right? I'm a Black male, and as Akila said, as Taylor said, just the feeling of, man, I'm not safe. That I can be driving down the street, I can be walking in the store, whatever the case may be, and I could be seen as a threat. And a person may see me, and outside of work, they don't know I work for the sheriff's office. All they see is a Black person. They don't know that I'm a nice guy. All they see is this Black person, and so I'm living, with this feeling of, am I safe, or will I be safe? And so managing it, number one, took, of course, foundationally lots of prayer. I had to pray, and I had to get clarity and lean on my faith in God, because if not, I knew that I was going to be driven insane, really mentally, that it was going to drive me to a place mentally and emotionally, that if I didn't lean on God, that'd have been really tough to manage, right? But also leaning on those who I work with, other African Americans, for us to have honest conversation with each other, and also for me to have those conversations with my coworkers of the other race, just to have these conversations and to share the perspective, because there is a different perspective between some. And just to see the awkwardness of the other perspective, that others have this perspective of African Americans and this racism of African Americans that is, honestly, to me, it may not be, for some it's very blatant racism, but also for some I discovered that it's ignorance, that there is so much ignorance, in a sense, from those of the other race, of what we go through. Like they just said, they don't understand, and they can't understand what we go through, because while the world may promote that there's equality, and while it may seem that there's equality, we've seen very clear in 2020 that there's not equality, that there is not that freedom that's promoted. And I think a lot of that stems from this ignorance, which is just a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge, and a lack of sensitivity. And that's very awkward to deal with, because you try to help others understand, but sometimes how can you help people understand what they can't relate to? And that's how I feel, like, man, you're trying to help them to get it, but they just don't understand what it means and how it feels to be a Black person.
And so it, all of you have pinpointed the discussion tonight. I'm so super proud of all four of you. I was just reminded, Minister Gerard Bell just reminded us in the chat that this is all St. Paul youth. So I'm like super proud. And two of these are mine, right? And one of these is adopted, and then the other one is a son. So this is a family affair. What is helping you get through it? What's helping you with all that you face? What's helping you as a teenager, as a college student, and as a young adult who's married, with a child on the way, new ministry assignment? I'm putting all of the stuff in there. What is helping you get through it?
I think what's helping me is just the fact that I have a life to live. I'm 20 years old, in college, running a business, plan on running multiple businesses, and I'm speaking that. I have goals. I have things that I want to get done. Um, yeah, that's really what's really keeping me kind of afloat now that I kind of adjusted to this new way of living. It's like I'm set now. I've adjusted to it. And now I'm all gas, no brakes. Just because I don't want to waste time, because life is too short. It's too much happening right now. And I just want to make sure that I get what I need to get done. Everyone has a purpose in their life. I want to make sure I fulfill my purpose. So I think that's really what is keeping me going and just pushing through all of the negativity and all of the bad news, because 2020 was definitely rough, but it wasn't all bad. 2020 definitely had its good days, good weeks, good months. And I've definitely grown throughout 2020. So I definitely think that it was just a time to just sit down, really focus, pinpoint what I needed to pinpoint. And now I'm just like, okay, 2021, clean my hands of 2020, remember everything, apply it to whatever I need to do going forward. And like I said, I'm all gas, no brakes. So it's just the fact that I have goals I have to reach, I have a purpose I have to fulfill. So yeah.
It's interesting before we go in and before we ask the rest of you. I really like the all gas, no brakes. I'm almost angry. I'd never thought of that. That's actually pretty good. That's actually really good. And the fact that you talked about forgetting 2020 or putting it in its perspective and making a decision that you're going to move forward because you get nothing out of laboring in 2020. You got to put it in its right perspective. That's good stuff. Taylor, what has gotten you through? What would you say to someone that has helped you get through 2020?
I feel like it's kind of the same thing, like what Deja said. It's remembering that you have responsibilities and remembering there's like important things that you need to focus on. Like, especially like school now. School is definitely like something that's very, very important. And I feel like with me having like family and friends that really support you through everything, you can have like someone to talk to whenever you feel like you've hit a wall. You can just confide to them and just tell them whenever you feel like you just don't know what to do, and they can always like help you and support you throughout whatever you're going through or whatever that you feel like has affected you.
Akira, what has gotten you through 2020?
Well, I feel like I remember at the very, very beginning of 2020. I don't know if it was like the end of 2020, the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. You had a prophet come to church, and I remember the day. I remember where I was sitting. He said that 2020 was going to map out the next decade for us, which really stuck with me throughout the year, because if I was going to be lazy in 2020, my next decade was going to be filled with laziness, which I don't want to happen, because I graduate this decade, I go to college this decade, I have to get scholarships this decade. So that really helped me to get through, and having friends and being on FaceTime with Taylor late at night when we're supposed to be doing school. Really helped me get through, like having people around you and then having God to lean on. I feel like honestly having the Bible, because the Bible is very informative and very fun to read. But having the Bible and having God and having that ringing in the back of my head really just helped me get through, because I feel like if it wasn't for God, I would have just been like, whoa, this is not cute. I'm not doing this anymore. So, yeah.
James?
Definitely, foundationally, number one was um, my faith. My faith. That was a huge thing. I think I learned in a different way what faith means, like in a unique way. God really showed me what faith means, how to lean on Him in this year. But also, secondly, I think it would be the opportunity. I saw, I'm a very optimistic person. I see opportunity and the good in everything. I search for opportunity in the good in everything. And so 2020 provided for me an opportunity. Number one, an opportunity um, to try to positively influence and change the narrative. Because from the perspective of law enforcement, right? There's this perspective that all law enforcement is bad, right? That's the tension that we were living with, that all law enforcement is bad. And I don't believe that's true. I know plenty of good officers, white and black and other races, who have an intention, who have a desire to help their community. So number one, I had the opportunity to push a positive perspective, but also had an opportunity to be a representative for my race, and also another opportunity to help and be positive and faithful and faith-filled during this time for my family. I mean, it was an amazing juggling act I had to balance of helping my family through it, helping those who I work with, and also being there and also being the positive narrative for those at the jail, the inmates, and also the community who knows what I do. So for me, it was the opportunity and also my faith in God. And I'll even say this, being married, I'm thankful for my wife, because I was able to come home and, be myself and let everything just breathe and come home and have my peace place at home. That home was my place of peace, excuse me, and place of rest, to mentally rest, to mentally let everything go, because it was mentally exhausting. But I was able to come home and just be James. And that was an amazing break that I needed. I'm thankful for my wife for helping me through this awkwardness.
One final question, and this is the big question, all right? What would be your advice to your peer group moving forward? What would be your advice? And I want you to think about it in light of the fact that we have about 3 or 4 days left in Black History Month. We get a chance to, of course, this month is about celebrating, celebrating and honoring our heroes, our sheroes, the women and the men who paved the way for you as they've paved the way for me. So what would your advice be to your peers to help them moving forward out of 2020 with all of its challenges? And, now what's going to happen in 2021 is going to be all of these now trials of the policemen and the person and the men who killed, killed Aubrey. What is your advice? What is your encouragement to your peer group moving forward?
That is definitely a loaded question. I would definitely say my advice to my peers, one would be definitely to put your safety first. And I say that because, as you mentioned before, a lot of my I guess I would say peers at school, being that a lot of the protests were going on like in the Atlanta area. Most of my friends are from that area, so they definitely were active in the protests and things of that nature. And then when I asked, it's funny because I asked probably 2 of them, what made you, just out of curiosity, what made you decide to protest? And Their answer was just because I just felt like it was right. Nothing about trying to, stand up for what was right and things of that nature. I just thought it was right. It felt right, but at the same time, they were put in danger. So definitely stand your ground. Fight for what you believe in, but be safe. Safety is definitely really, really important right now, just period. Because anything could happen, at these protests. And definitely I would say live in the moment as well. I was talking about it actually with my dad today, how before life just kind of changed, I didn't really take advantage of the opportunities that I was granted. I lived in it, but it wasn't how I should have lived in it, because now it's like, dang, I wish I could do this. I never thought I would want to go to class. I never thought I would want to, be in a crowd of people. Like it's things of that nature. So live in the moment, be safe, stand your ground safely. Be black and proud, love the skin you're in, because I love the skin I'm in, okay? I love being a black woman, okay? So that's my little advice, my little piece.
Okay, we've got about 6-7 minutes left, so you guys have got to hit it. No, you're fine. You guys have got to hit it. So, what would you tell your peers, Akila? What would you tell your peers moving forward?
I would say to don't get into pointless arguments. And I'm speaking from experience, because
okay.
Even now I have to remind myself that you can't convince a fool not to be foolish. And if someone wants to sit there and be racist, let them be racist, because, no, okay, let me rephrase that. Don't let them be racist, but don't get yourself in a situation where you're going to regret it later. Because let's say you wanted to run for office and they dig up your past and you're over here saying something rude to somebody and then no votes. So I definitely say think about what you say before you put it online, and don't get into pointless arguments, because they're not going to listen. We live in the most stubborn generation I have ever seen. So you're wasting your breath and you're wasting your time at that point, because they're not going to listen. So don't get into pointless arguments and be safe.
Okay. James, we'll let you go now, and then Taylor will give us our final word.
For me, word of advice I would give is especially for my peer group, young adults. It kind of ties into what Deja said. Number one, definitely with all the protests, everything we've seen, I understand why. Number one, I do understand why. But now that all that is over, let's be a part of the solution, right? Let's be a part of the solution. All the hype is over. Many people got caught up in the hype of protest and rioting. And for some, you would ask, for what reason, right? What was your motive? What was your reason? But now that that's over, let's be a part of the solution. So whether that's running for political office, whether that's positioning yourselves in certain groups and areas of influence, making your voice heard in a way that can be received, right? I think that's really important, because if we don't make our voice heard in a way that can be received, it's going to be really tough to make change. Though it may be tough sometimes, right? We may be angry. You still have to communicate in a way that others can receive it and others will hear and respect what you have to say. Even if that's which I know tough for some in the Black community, but that's you joining and being a part of your local police force, right? Be a positive change, be a positive difference. I hear many people say, oh, I'll never be a police officer. I'll never join y'all, whatever the case may be. But you can be a part of the change. You can be a positive officer that can make an influence in the zone that you work in the area that you work in, the jail that you work in. I'm thankful that I get to work in the jail, because I hear plenty of people tell me all the time, oh man, Officer Terrell, you real cool, man. You're not like everybody else. Officer Terrell, man, you're different. I get a chance to at least change the narrative with people who I connect with. And I think if more of us join, if more of us apply and position ourselves strategically in these places, we can begin to impact and change and help our communities by being a part. So whether that's being a police officer, whether that's running for office, having conversation in a way that can be received, I think that it'll be very impactful. And that's the way we can make some change and make some changes.
Thank you, our fire minister. We talked about the jailer's employment, but we're excited that you're leading our fire ministry after Alexis.
Yes.
Taylor, you get to give us our final word before I wrap up tonight.
Okay.
My mini me, yes.
My advice would be, even though, for the kids my age, even though responsibilities and obligations are very important, mental health is very important too. So, like, if you're going through something, or if you're like just really feel like you're just stressed and just don't know what to do, like, talk to friends, talk to family. If you're not comfortable talking to anyone, if you don't really have anybody to talk to, you can always talk to God. Even though you probably don't know what exactly to say, it doesn't really have to be like a wordy prayer. You could just have a conversation with him, let everything out. Don't bottle things in, because that's not healthy. Let everything out. If you need to let tears out, that's totally fine. Just don't try to bottle things in, and make sure like your mental health is better than whatever like it is when you're going through stuff.
Awesome. I wanna first thank everybody for your amazing insight. The comments are absolutely wonderful, and it's an incredible statement of the wisdom that's embedded in this generation. I think sometimes we're very hard on you, and we want you to do more shutting up than talking. But I think tonight it was exciting to be able to hear you share your thoughts, share your insights. I want everybody that's watched tonight to share this after this is over with, to encourage people to watch it. I am so proud of the four of you. You represent the best of your generation and the best of our race. And I'm very pleased. I want to close with, it's interesting because, of course, two of these persons lived in our house. And, their mom is watching. Yes, your Uncle Bob from Richmond is watching, my fraternity brother, and so many of our partners as well. But it's interesting. Deja sent me a text, and I want to read the text because I think the text speaks to her maturity and her understanding. And I want to make a final point to everyone watching. On February 17th, Deja sends me this text at 10:38 in the evening after last week's NightCap, right, Deja? And the text says, "So I just had a mini emotional proud daughter moment watching NightCap, so I had to text you. LOL. I'm really proud of all the things you've birthed during this pandemic. I really enjoyed being able to be home to witness you light a new fire and tap into this new level of creativity, even with drastic change to living. You're really amazing, and that makes me even more proud to be your daughter. I'm standing 10 toes down behind every idea to come, even from Savannah. Love you so much." The reason why I read that is not because one, it's a text I'm going to keep for the rest of my life, because it's always important that your family appreciates and values who you are. But I wanted to read it because I need the parents who are watching to understand that the other thing that we offer our children in a pandemic is a positive example. A positive example that they see parents that are focused. They see role models that are doing the right things. They see us excited about our lives and motivated about our lives and managing stress and anxiety in a healthy way. They see us giving them space to talk. I can remember all of the conversations that I was privy to and even I had Deja and Taylor. I remember Deja's trauma initially with not being able to go back to school, and yet she wouldn't barricade herself in her room. She would come downstairs, and even with tears in her eyes. I have watched Deja, though Taylor walked through some really interesting things in her life. And so yesterday, Deja comes home, and last night I hear upstairs the laughter of the two sisters. And what a great reminder that is to me. Akila has been a success story in the pandemic, winning pageants and growing out her uniqueness and being a powerful example. And again, her mom, her dad, her family being that example. And then James to talk about Sierra like he did, and the fact that she's the space you come home to, and she gives you a place to rest and a place to feel comfortable. I hope everybody catches this lesson. If your home life is unhealthy, you will set your children up for failure. They will barricade themselves behind closed doors, and they will suffocate because of anxiety. But if you're a healthy adult, and if you're doing your part as a saint, and you're creating space for your children to talk, and you're creating space for your children to be healthy, then you yourself as a role model sets the tone for them. And so as we conclude tonight, I want to thank one of the best panels we've ever had, Minister James Terrell. I've called him Terrell for years, and he never corrected me. That is a wonderful spiritual son and a bad one. He should have fixed me. He should have fixed me. I don't mind being fixed, right? And my adopted daughter, spiritual daughter, Akila Pryor, whose future is so bright. She's going to be, Kamala Harris may beat her to the White House, but she's not going to be far behind. And then, of course, the Guns girls. Deja, who is on the fast track to be a success story in her own right. We are so proud of her. And then my personal mini-me, who amazes me. Taylor was a little unsettled about doing this, but she was amazing. Oh, my God. Don't you ever say you can't talk again. I'm going to hurt you. Right? You are incredible. I'm so proud of you. So the four of you have done an amazing job. Thank you for giving us hope that the future is not in the hands of racists, is not in the hands of destructive people. It's in your hands. And as your parents and your guardians and your role models, we are committed to giving you the best example so that one day your children and grandchildren will be a great example to the world as you are for us. Thank you all for watching. Please, everybody, share this. I've been encouraged to do this kind of stuff, so I'm going to do it. I have a new book out entitled Even in This, I'm Okay. It's a tremendous book. It has a lot of incredible principles in it. There's actually 7 sermons that I preached in the pandemic, and we took them, and Ray worked with me, and Karen Bradford and others came together to work with me to pull this book together. And so I want to encourage you to go right now to bishopjohnguns.info and buy the book as well. If you don't mind, take your device, type right now E3 to 84576, E3 to 84576, and receive my daily text messages. We're now up to almost 350 people who receive daily text messages from around the country. Ray and I have a goal of 500 people. And so please join us in this journey as our young people have told us to be healthy. Thank you, Taylor, for reminding us about the value of our mental health, how important that is in this time. We love you guys. Thank you so much for watching NightCap. Now, guys, remember, at the end of NightCap, I think, Deja, you watch it almost every week. So at the end of NightCap, even though we've got to close now, everybody's got to do a little dance and a jig at the end. And so we're 5 minutes over our normal time. Sharice, we love you and we miss you, dear. And we'll see you again next week. We got some incredible guests coming in March, and it's going to be incredible. So join us. Help us build NightCap. So I'm going to start with some music. There you go. There you go. She has it. Deja has it. So you ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Da 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 da. Come on, Taylor. You dance all the time. Da 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 da. Y'all ready for the coast? Da da da. We love you. NightCap, y'all. Peace. We'll see you soon.